There's a lot of different changes that happen when you are going through, you know, those seasons of your life. And again, if you haven't had them yet, you will have them eventually, where you feel like it's just like the hits just keep coming. Like it reminds me of the batting cages that I would see. Like there used to be this place my family would go all the time. I think it closed. It's like Fun Time Square, where they had all the like bumper cars and like the go-karts, and it was like every kid's dream. And I remember like watching the batting cages, but I was never a sports person, and I'm still not. It's actually quite embarrassing. My very low, oh my God, okay, this is like a quick tangent, but one time, one of the most embarrassing moments of my life, I had a client and it was time for the Super Bowl. And it was like the weekend before, and she was wearing a shirt that looked sporty. And I was like, oh, is that like one of the teams that are playing? And she was like, no, Mace, it's my school mascot. She was a teacher. And I was like, oof, time to move to a different country and get a different name. But still here. What was my original point? Where was I going with this? Batting cages, thank you. Not a sports person, but I would see some kids where it was just like, they just hit one thing after the other and they got it. And a lot of the times life will start to feel like those batting cages where it's like, subhanAllah, you look around and it's like one hit after the other, one hit after the other. And you know that this is happening because Allah tests those whom He loves. The Prophet ﷺ tells us that. But it is something that can actually have an effect on your body and neurologically can rewire your brain. And it's really important for you to understand how, so that you can understand that when you are in those lows, there are actual changes happening in your body and you need to learn to take care of them. One of the biggest things, if we could change the slide, please, because I'm going to need that in a second. A lot of the times when we go through that exhaustion, when we go through different traumas or just different hurtful phases in life, and we go through that despair for a long period of time, our body goes into survival mode, a term you're probably familiar with because everyone on TikTok thinks that they're a therapist, but I'm going to tell you what it actually means, inshallah. But it essentially means that when you go through that for a really long time, your body eventually starts to shut down. And when it shuts down, it goes into a lot of the times one of these three, we call them stress responses. So there's fight, flight, or freeze, right? Terms you're probably familiar with. When you're in fight, this is a moment where literally, this is the destroy all of humanity moment, where it's like everything pisses you off and you're going off on people and you're hurting this person and you're hurting that person and you're just very, very irritable. And it's one of the things that we know can very quickly destroy your akhirah. But fight is like, touch me and I'll scream. There's flight, which is kind of being avoidant of everything, of you don't really want to talk to anybody. You're just like, even the people that usually bring me joy are suddenly pissing me off and now I can't stand anybody and I just kind of want to wallow in my misery. A lot of the times for people, flight can actually look like there's avoidance, but then there's people who start drowning themselves in things to do and the to-do list becomes very, very full and I'm busy, right? It's like a flex, like, oh, I don't have time, I'm busy. People who are busy all of the time are running from themselves. I'm telling you straight up, if you like are filling your schedule so much to the point where you don't have time for anything, it's because you're trying not to feel a single emotion. Or you go into freeze, which is when you feel numb. You're like, I feel nothing. I feel like I should be upset. I feel like I should be angry. But actually numbness is not an absence of emotion. It's actually being so overwhelmed with emotion that you feel like if I let it in, I don't know what's going to happen to me. And then I'm going to get up here and do an ABC 1, 2, 3 teacher moment for a second. There's actually something that starts to happen in your brain. And this is something that's very, very important to be aware of, because a lot of the times we start seeing these changes within ourselves and within our families, and we need to be aware of what's going on. If you go through hardship for a long time and you neglect yourself, meaning you don't do anything about it and you're doing that wallowing that Ustad Ubaydullah was talking about, where it's just like, I'm gonna marinate in my emotions, I'm gonna marinate in that despair and in that hopelessness, and I'm going to avoid everything, and I'm giving up on myself and I'm giving up on Allah. What happens is, this part of your brain, don't trip, mates, this part of your brain called the prefrontal cortex, this is the part of your brain that's responsible for decision making. So for you to think logically, for you to worship properly, for you to do all the things that you got to do to be successful in this world and the next, inshallah, it actually starts to shut down in order to protect you. And then the lower part of your brain starts activating. And this is a part of your brain, we've got the amygdala, and this is kind of like, think about it as like the alarm in your brain, the thing that detects fear. This area starts to become very, very active, and you start making decisions from here. I'll give you like a prime example. I had a client one time, she told me she was at the bank, and when she went and she was just, you know, getting some, I forgot what it was, doesn't matter. But she was at the bank and there was this guy next to her and he was in his 70s And he had it had to be around like 90K in savings. He gave it all away to one of those phone scammers. Not just that, I have heard of some people who have 2 master's degree, got a PhD, right? Because a lot of times I think people like look at seniors and they're like, oh, haram, like they're so gullible, they fall for it. But I've seen some legitimate people who like are educated or are street smart give away all their savings. How does this happen? Because when the brain is operating on its fear response, the logical part gets shut down. And then you find yourself doing things that you wouldn't do. You find yourself thinking things that maybe you wouldn't think. You find yourself maybe even having thoughts about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that maybe you didn't have before. Because when you neglect yourself for so long, I'm not talking about just being in a state of hardship. I'm talking about you're not doing anything and you're not asking for help and you're suffering in silence. There are actual changes that start to happen in our brain and body. And what does that lead to? That leads to us starting to, be functioning, right? We have things called like high functioning anxiety or high functioning depression, where people are moving around and they're doing things, but they're not really present. You're talking to people, but you feel like you're somewhere completely different. We've got, you struggling to do everyday tasks. For some people, sending a message or sending an email can feel like climbing a mountain, yet alone doing things like praying, yet alone doing things like opening the Quran. That's another thing. Worship can become very heavy. And I'm not saying this to give anyone an excuse like, oh yeah, that's me. That means I don't have to pray or I don't have to read the Quran. It means that you have to fight harder and you need to take care of yourself better in order to do those things. But the point being is that I want you to understand that sometimes we go through these emotions for so long, and when we don't do anything about it, not only do we start to shut down, but we start to cope with it in unhealthy ways. And that brings us to the many, many struggles that we have in our ummah now. The addiction to drugs, the addiction to alcohol, the addiction to zina, the addiction to pornography, the addiction to even things like, things that people don't consider addictions, like shopping or backbiting or gossiping. Everyone's like, every Arab or every Muslim known to man got that addiction. All these different things, because this is us trying to regulate. And I'm going to end it with one more point, inshallah, which is that, and this is something that I've honestly been wanting to address for a while, because again, I don't think it gets addressed at a lot of masajid or anywhere really, but it's the fact that a lot of the times people have so much despair and so much stress and so much hopelessness that gets trapped in their body that they start to feel like if life feels this bad or I feel this bad, then maybe I shouldn't be here, or maybe I should just disappear, or maybe I'm not meant for this world. And subhanAllah, I want to tie it back to Surah Maryam that we just recited. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward Brother Ahmed and Sister Leen for their recitation and translation. Everyone say Ameen.
Ameen.
But they highlighted the point in Maryam alayhi salam's life where, she's being told, you're going to have a baby. And she says, how am I going to have a baby when no man has touched me? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to make it happen. It's going to happen. And she goes and she secludes herself to an area where the pain, she's feeling the pain of labor, and she's stressed and she's anxious and she has no idea what's coming next for her. And what does she say? فأجاءها المخاض إلى جذع النخلة قالت يا ليتني مت قبل هذا وكنت نسيا منسيا. She says, I wish I had died before this and I had been a thing that was long forgotten. I remember reading this in grad school and I was like, passive suicidal ideation with no plan. Like, Allah is telling us in the Quran that this is a person, this is a woman who, there's a surah in the Quran named after her family. She was righteous, she was practicing, she had it together. This is someone who you guys, people would find her with fruits that weren't even in season. Allah would gift her with things that weren't even in season. Completely on her deen. And what does she say? She gets to a point where she was just like, man, that this is too stressful. She's feeling the stress of the present and she's stressing about the future, right? That's where a lot of our hopelessness and despair comes from, is that we feel the pain of the present and all we can feel is that pain and we can't see beyond that pain. We're like, the future is going to suck as much as the present does. And we start to feel like I want to disappear. And I'm going to pause here and I'm going to pivot it back to you, inshallah, Ustad, because I want you to kind of talk. I'm going to come back to this moment, inshallah, but I want to pause and kind of have you tell us a little bit about what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say about his closeness in those moments? What should we know about our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What does he want us to know in the moments where we're feeling like the walls are closing in the moments where we feel like, I don't know what to do, or someone even maybe wrestling with the thoughts of, I feel like I want to disappear, and you're just hitting that point of emotional collapse.
Bismillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Interestingly enough, I was speaking to a colleague about suicide and suicidal ideation, and I was trying to understand suicidal ideation. And they directed me to the attack on the World Trade Center, happened 9/11/01. And she said, did you see those people in the World Trade Center? Some people who were on the higher floors of the World Trade Center, and at this point the building is burning. There's no way for them to get out. They actually started jumping. They started jumping out of the windows. And she said to me, how do you regard the act of those people? Do you think of them as committing suicide? Do you think of them? And I really didn't know what to say. She said, exactly. For them, the building is on fire. I can sit here, allow myself to be incinerated in this building, or I can get it over very quickly and jump out of the window. And they opted, some of them, to jump out of the window. She said, a person contemplating suicide, their life is like that burning building. And they're thinking, I can allow this to consume me slowly and painfully, or I can just get it over with. And what we have to do is we have to convince them, we have to entreat them, we have to implore them. The building is on fire. You don't want to deny their experience. You don't want to say the building's not on fire. That's first world problems. No, the building is on fire. But we can extinguish these flames. The building is not always going to be on fire, right? If you end it now, you don't give yourself an opportunity to find relief that God will give you. So we know that ba'da usrin yusra. After difficulty, there's ease. And she said, understand that depression, sadness, despair, we all experience these. But someone contemplating suicide cannot see the terminus of these. Meaning they can't see that this will ever end. And that's why they don't have hope. What you have to tell them is that, no, what you're experiencing is real, but it will come to an end, right? One phrase that my grandmother used to say all the time, hafidhahullah, no, Allah yarhamuha, she's passed, mashallah. She would say, this too shall pass, right? That even though it's difficult, even though it's painful, this too shall pass. Now, I don't think my grandmother, alhamdulillah, she accepted Islam right before she passed, alhamdulillah. But when she would say that, I don't think she was referencing the Quran. But for us as Muslims, there's an even deeper meaning there. The entire, kullu man alayha fan. The entire dunya shall pass. This all shall pass. All of it. So for us, being hopeless, or being depressed, or being grief-stricken, or suffering from despair, these are states that we experience from time to time. We have to be assured that there is a light at the end of this tunnel, even if that light is akhirah. Even if that light is what is after this. But people must be reminded that there is something after this. Another thing that I think about is that kind of depression and suicidal ideation is a very lonely place to be. I think, okay, what if I am very sad, but I can still feel the happiness of other people? I can still be lifted by the good that other people are experiencing, if I'm open to that. You know, I had a friend, and he said that whenever he is depressed, he would go to Terminal 5 at O'Hare Airport. That's the international terminal. And he would see people greeting their beloveds that they hadn't seen in a very long time. He said, I know they thought I was like some weirdo. I'd just be sitting over in the corner. And you know, you see the boy standing there with a poster, "We love you, Dad." The woman standing with her flowers, waiting for her husband. And when he emerges from the terminal, that spontaneous joy, "Oh my God, my father, my father." He said, even though it's not me, it reminds me that there's still some good in the world. Right? So sometimes I think opening yourself to an experience that's not limited to yourself.
Yeah.
Sometimes I am messed up. I am struggling, but everyone isn't struggling.
Yeah.
Right? I might be a part of, I guess, what one could call the collateral beauty of existence. I might be the struggle that helps us to appreciate the good times. Right? You know, in case you haven't noticed, I'm African American. So you see. And there's a genre of music that African Americans invented called the blues. The blues. And it's all about pain. It's all about despair. But in producing this art, in producing something from the pain, one does not allow the pain to consume them. One does not allow the pain to, eat them up. But rather, you observe the pain. You are honest with the pain. You talk about the pain. And that's another thing too. And this is gonna sound crazy, but that was like right on cue. That was crazy. Complaining, man.
Yeah.
Complaining to Allah. Ash-shakwa la tanfa illa ila Allah. Complaining does not benefit you, except when you complain to God. A person said to me, clinically, black women have the lowest rates of suicide in America. Right? I said, why? Because they complain a lot. No, because this was serious. I know, it sounds crazy, but it was serious. That just giving voice to your pain, just saying, man, I'm mad about this, and I'm mad about this, and I'm mad about this. There's something cathartic in that.
Yeah.
I can't. Now, of course, as a Muslim, I'm thinking dua.
Yes.
Right? Just giving voice to, man, Ya Allah, this and this. Inni ashku ilayk, da'fa quwwati wa qillata hilati. The Prophet's dua at Ta'if. Just the fact that he's giving voice to his pain helps you to deal with it. A lot of when people get to a place of wanting to end it, it's pain that isn't being expressed. It's bottled. And it's consuming them. Sometimes just open your mouth, pray to Allah, and be very candid about what is bothering you. I am distressed about what I see in Gaza. I am distressed about what I see in Sudan. I'm distressed about how immigrants are being treated in this country. I'm distressed, like giving voice to those things, man, this distresses me. That will actually make you feel better.
Yes.
Walking around just, you can explode or perhaps implode.
Yeah.
SubhanAllah.
Yes, subhanAllah. Jazakallah khairan, Ustaz. That was like the picture perfect advertisement for therapy right there. The whole, like, obviously taking our pain to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first, but 100% the reality is that the unexpressed emotion ends up coming in ways you're not going to want it to, and those are the ways that end up destroying you, destroying your relationships, and can, eventually end up being something that destroys your akhirah. But definitely the whole honing in on the closeness that we have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in those moments, and understanding that a lot of the times the purpose of the pain and the reason we get put in those situations like Maryam alayhi salam, where you're just like, what do I do when I feel like I want to disappear? Sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will isolate us from everybody, or will sometimes put us in positions where people just might not understand, and people just don't get it. And sometimes people don't even get it themselves. And subhanAllah, that's why even just tears can be a form of dua. Like sometimes you don't even have the words. Sometimes the tears that come out of your eyes, those do the talking. And also understanding too that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy is always closer than we think. Even in the story of Maryam alayhi salam, afterwards, the verses that come is that a voice calls out from beneath her and says that there's a stream there. Do not grieve. Allah has provided a stream at your feet and provides her with dates and provides her with water and tells her to eat and drink and put her heart at ease. Knowing that even in the moments where it feels really suffocating, in the moments where you don't know what's going to come next, trusting that those who put their trust in Allah never lose. And I want to go back to something you were also saying earlier, Ustad, is that the whole thing with, people wrestling whether or not they should take their own life. This is a very real problem in our communities. I remember one of the first things they taught us in school was that whenever you have a patient that is expressing suicidal ideation, it's not that they want life to end, it's that they want the pain to end. And it's people not knowing how to cope with pain properly. And there's something I really want to make very, very clear to everybody. And if you never listen to anything I say to you in my life, please listen to this. The thought of wanting to disappear, or the thought of I shouldn't be here, or the thought of life is getting really, really hard, maybe I shouldn't do life anymore, is not a sign that you should actually disappear. What it is a sign of is that your ruh, your soul, and your body and your mind have probably been leaving you voicemails for a very, very long time trying to get your attention, and you have been ignoring them. What it means is that you need to continue to build your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yes, and get that relationship to be deeper and richer. But it also means that sometimes we need to, not sometimes, a lot of the times, we need to be asking for help. And that is the problem, is that a lot of us are suffering in silence, and we are not listening to, again, the messages that our body and our mind and our ruh are sending us. And we are not seeking out the means to help ourselves a lot of the times. It means that you gotta maybe learn to be creative with the ways that you take care of yourself. It means we gotta learn healthier ways to cope. It means that we have to recognize that something is wrong and then start taking steps to solve that. But in no way, shape, or form, make no mistake about it, does you getting to a point where you feel like the pain is a lot, or you feel like the world has turned its back on you, that the world would ever be a better place without you. I never want that thought to cross. If that thought crosses anyone's mind, recognize this is from shaitan. This is a thought from shaitan. And never let, this is another thing too, is that I see this pattern a lot where in the Muslim population, sometimes people have abandoned us, and people have betrayed us, and people have, we feel like, stabbed us in the back, and they've left us. And sometimes those feelings of abandonment, they start to circulate in our veins for so long that we start to feel like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself has abandoned us. And that is never the case. Knowing, like I said before, is that sometimes we are put in these situations and these lows and this deep, deep brokenness, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to get to this point where we rely on no one and nothing but Him. We put our trust in Him, but we also recognize that if Maryam alayhi salam could get to a point with all her iman and all her faith and her connection with Allah, and she still felt like there were points where it was hard to breathe, that it's normal and it's a part of life. But it's a matter of what are you going to do with those emotions, and it's a matter of how are you going to take care of yourself. And inshallah, we're gonna teach you guys how to do that. Inshallah, it's gonna be a 2-part series, but I'm gonna kind of dive into it a little bit today. But one of the first steps that you want to be able to take in those moments is, first of all, we go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help first, always. We complain to Allah always. And again, if you feel like you're in freeze mode, you're in that numbness mode, you don't know where to go from here mode, knowing that your numbness and your tears are a form of dua itself. You don't have to say what it is. It's great if you can. It's great if you can find the words. But if you can't, Allah knows. Allah knows, and Allah understands better than your therapist ever could. I'm not saying don't go to therapy, but better than your therapist ever could, better than your parents ever could, better than your spouse, your children, whoever. Take the person who understands you best in the world. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would still understand it better than anyone ever could. And he knows and he sees. In these moments, yes, they are tests. But the really great part is that if you handle it in a way that is pleasing to him, which is just trying, right? We say this all the time. Allah doesn't want us to be perfect. He just wants us to try. Just you trying, Jazakallah khairan, just you trying is enough. And just you putting in the effort is enough. But one of the first things that you want to do, if we could go to the next slide, please, is we want you to be able to recognize your own red flags, right? And a lot of times we kind of take the term red flags and we kind of analyze it of like, should this person be my friend or should this person be my spouse, or are there red flags that are present? But we actually have our own warning signs and our own red flags that start to come up. So one of the first things I want you guys to do, and inshallah we're going to send this in the chat, and inshallah if we could have someone go to the next slide, I'll start kind of discussing them a little bit, but if we could have the visuals, that would be awesome. Is that everyone's got a couple different red flags. There are emotional red flags, there's physical and nervous system red flags, and then there's spiritual red flags too. There are emotional red flags of your emotions getting really, really heavy and you not knowing what to do with them. There's physical red flags of your body starting to shut down, knowing how to take care of it, that is key. And then there's spiritual red flags of what is happening in my life, what am I abandoning, what acts of worship am I leaving, and how is that impacting me? And so understanding that just being able to learn more about yourself and learn what triggers you and learn what activates you, and then learning healthier ways to cope and learning how to learn on Allah, lean on Allah, and also lean on the people at the same time is one of the things that inshallah is going to be key to helping you through that. So that's just kind of a brief intro. Inshallah, we'll dive into it deeper and a couple other things next time, inshallah. But I want to pivot it back to Ustaz Ubaydullah as we're slowly, subhanAllah, goes by so fast, running out of time. Just to leave us, if you could, with, from an Islamic perspective, just kind of what are the practical things that we can do in the moment? We talked about, identifying what's going on with us, identifying our stress response, identifying what it is that we need, how it is that we can take care of ourselves. But from an Islamic perspective, like, where do you go from here? What's like the first thing that you do? Because this all sounds great, but then when you're in the moment and you're like crying and freaking out, it's like, what do I do?
Bismillah, one of the most interesting things about the story of Maryam alayha salam is that she is having this experience of wanting to disappear. I like the way that you phrase that. After having been spoken to by an angel.
Yeah.
After knowledge that she is carrying a blessed child that God literally placed in her womb. After these faith-affirming experiences, she still is at this place.
Yeah.
So know that the soul, this is a part of the soul's journey.
Yeah.
I don't know who I'm among tonight, but I'm guessing you're not regularly addressed by angels in the way that Maryam alayha salam was, but you never know. I don't know. So we have our highs that must have been a high for her, spiritually. And then we have those low points. Part of what you have to do is embrace those and know that each of those states is giving you gifts. The Prophet ﷺ in the Shama'il Muhammadiyah, Imam al-Tirmidhi, he's described as being mutawasil al-ahzan, someone that was always a little bit melancholy, a little bit sad. Like this was, they say his regular disposition was kind of, he wasn't like always cheerful. And then you have other descriptions of him. He was Dahak, Bassam, the one that was always smiling, always laughing. And someone said, how do you reconcile between a description of him as kind of like melancholy and a description of him as like very upbeat, very sanguine, very smiley? They said one was when he was in the company of other people, he was always smiling. To put them at ease. This is how you are a good friend, a good guest. You want to make other people feel comfortable, so you're laughing, you're smiling. They said, but when he was alone, deep contemplation, deep reflection, not a lot of laughing. Ar-Rasul alayhi wasallam lam yatakaka. He didn't like laugh, ha 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 ha. No, he wasn't that, right? One of our problems is that we don't embrace that dichotomy. That there should be a time in our lives that is dedicated to like serious reflection, where we embrace some sadness about the state of the world. Right? We should lament over the state of the world. Not because it's out of God's control, but because we see so much that we know is displeasing to Allah. So much inhumanity, so much selfishness, so much environmental degradation, so much lack of neighborliness. These are things that we should say, subhanAllah. But we are given hope because God is also in control. Right? So the first thing I would say is embrace that. Embrace the ups and embrace the downs. Joy and pain are like sunshine and rain. That's from a song with you guys. Right, Frankie Beverly. Yeah. Right. Joy and pain, they're like sunshine and rain. And a flower needs both to grow. A flower needs sunshine, but it also needs rain. You can't be happy all the time. There's actually a word for that. It's called being Pollyannish. like somebody from California, you know? Shout out to my people from California. No, I'm not always happy like that. No, I'm not always happy like that. And that's okay. The second thing is embracing honesty with those emotions, allowing yourself to weep. You know, I'll just briefly tell you guys, man, I spent like 15 years of my life without crying once. You know, when I was a kid, I used to love baseball. And because the Chicago Cubs, their games were broadcast on WGN, Channel 9 back in the day, and you didn't have to have cable to watch the Cubs, and we didn't have cable, I was a Cubs fan. Even though I'm from the South Side, I was a Cubs fan, not a White Sox fan. And so my father, who was struggling with a lot of issues in his personal life, he would promise me he was gonna take me to a Cubs game. He would say like, I'm taking you to the game on Saturday, be ready. And I would be sitting there, got my glove, the game is right there on television. It would be like in the 6th or 7th inning, there's only 9 innings in a baseball game. My mother would already be crying. His father stood him up. He doesn't deserve this. He's not coming. I believed in my father so much. I would think my father might pick me up, take me to the game, and make them replay the game. Oh, my son missed a few innings, start over. I'll be sitting there. Only after the last out would I start crying. So, man, he didn't come, man. So one day I was about 14 or 15. My father said, I'm gonna take you to a game. He didn't come, and I didn't cry. And after that, I couldn't cry for anything. It was like something inside of me just broke that day. Like, you know, I'm done crying, man. And emotionally, I just could not cry. I just could not do it. So much so that when my eldest daughter was born, I was in the OR, they let me hold her, and I knew, wait, I'm supposed to be crying. They're gonna think I'm like a cold-hearted jerk if I don't cry. So at the back, I was pretending like I was crying, like, I'm so happy, but no, I couldn't cry, you know? And, you know, her mom used to ask me, she said, Ubayd, I've never seen you cry. She said, if something happened to me, would you cry? Brothers, take notes. These are the situations in which it is halal to lie. Seriously. Not being aware of this, I said, you know, babe, I would miss you, but I probably wouldn't cry. You know, it's just not something that I do, you know. And when I was in my 3rd year at Azhar, she passed away. Allah yarhamuha. She had an ectopic pregnancy. And she's actually buried in Cairo, Al-Wafa wal-Amal, which is a cemetery right outside of Medina Nasr, right before you get to Muqattam, right there. And I still remember preparing her for burial, washing her, shrouding her. And it was like 15 years of tears just coming out of my eyes. I cried for like 3 days. I thought like I was gonna get dehydrated. Something was gonna happen to me. And I just kept looking at her as I was preparing her for burial. And I kept saying, oh, you got me good. Oh, you got me. Look how you got me out here crying like this. Subhanallah. You got me crying like this. And after that, it became very easy for me to cry. And I'm talking about stuff that probably doesn't make a lot of people cry. I might just see like, I'm in the mall parking lot. I just see a mother putting her kid in the car seat. I'm like, oh, it's just the way she cares for the baby. It's just, oh, that's rahmah. That's mercy. And I realize now, those 15 years in which I couldn't cry, and I was being deprived of an honesty with my emotion. I was frozen.
Yeah.
I was frozen.
Yeah.
And I tell brothers especially, there is no shame in crying. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, kamil rajula, complete manhood.
Yeah.
He used to cry. There's no shame in crying.
Yeah.
So being honest with yourself and open about those things that like I'm really frustrated about this.
Yeah.
This is really painful. This is really disappointing.
Yeah.
That's a good practice. Yeah. That's actually the beginning of some healing.
Yeah.
So that you don't kind of repress and just kind of implode.
Yeah.
And then I would say getting people that you can also talk to.
Yeah.
The Prophet Khadija al-Kubra radiyallahu anha, she was a confidant to him. Right? She was a confidant to him.
Yeah.
She was someone that he could go to and express how disappointed he was that Quraysh wasn't accepting his risala. You have to have people like that in your life that you can go to and tell them just straight up, man, this is really difficult.
Yeah.
This is really frustrating. Sometimes just being understood in that way, having someone that just understand, I understand how that can be difficult. That means the world.
Yeah.
And it gives you license to feel what you're feeling. Hey, I know how that is, right? And then lastly, recognize that Allah says in the Quran, Inna Allaha ma'as sabirin.
Yes.
God is with those who are patient. Patience is only required of an individual in 2 circumstances. You only need patience in 2 circumstances. One, you want something that you don't have. So you have to be patient. We want Philistine to be free.
Yeah.
But it's not something that we see today, so we have to be patient. Or you have something, second scenario, you have something you don't want. So someone is diagnosed with an illness, or someone has to deal with the loss of a loved one. These are the only 2 circumstances in which you need patience. Either you want something you don't have, or you have something you don't want.
Yeah.
And in either of those circumstances, the iwad, the alternative to what you want or what you want relief from is Allah.
Yeah.
Inna Allaha ma'as sabirin. The one that is in that state, I want something, but I don't have it. They have Allah.
Yeah.
I have something, but I don't want it. They have Allah. What our religion offers us is the ability to see that.
Yeah.
Right? Do not despair. God is with you. And to that end, I'll just say this before closing. I often find that people who are in hardship, they know they have Allah. It's often people who are witnessing their hardship that are losing their faith.
Yeah.
It's people watching what is happening in Gaza. They're losing their faith. People watching what is happening in Sudan. They're losing their faith. People watching what is happening in Venezuela, they're losing their faith. But the people there, we don't have anything but God. What else? What else do we have? The world isn't giving us any validation. So we're relying on God. It's the person that is kind of like vicariously living in another person's trauma that is losing their faith. People that are experiencing difficulty, they're often holding on to the rope of faith. Because I don't have anything else. You know, I was speaking at on a college campus in the northeastern United States, and someone said, you know, I find it fascinating that although Black people in America have experienced so much intergenerational trauma, you see very low rates of agnosticism and atheism among Blacks. I wonder why that is. I said, you wonder why that is? People that the world is not validating, they have nothing but God. Because if this is all I have, I lost. It's over. I lost. I'm vanquished. The world has defeated me. But if your hope is in something greater, you can still hold your head up. You can still walk with pride. You recognize that this is a sacrifice. Brothers and sisters, the difference between suffering and sacrifice is meaning. If you see meaning in what you're experiencing, you know that this is a sacrifice. If you don't see any meaning, it's just meaningless suffering. We are Muslims. This is a sacrifice. If this is what we have to experience to get to Jannah, this is a bargain. This is a discount. This is a discount. If this is what we have to experience, right? But we see this is the sacrifice. It's the dunya. It's the dunya. I mean, alhamdulillah, there's much to be happy about in the dunya. But never forget that Adam and Eve were sent to this place, you know, not as a curse, but after a fall. The dunya, we don't believe, you know, I mean, there is hadith as a dunya mal'una, right? But I don't want to shock people, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to shock people, but because I don't want anybody to walk out of here, that's right, man, the world is cursed. No, wait, hold on now. Well, a dunya mal'una. Really, this, you know, I asked one of my teachers, how should I translate this? The dunya is fallen. Even the word dunya in Arabic comes from dunu. This is the lowest world. This is low. This is low. So don't allow it to be akbaru hammina. Wala mablagha ilmina. It's not the extent of our knowledge, not the extent of our concern. It's the dunya. It's a place that we work, but the akhirah is the place that we receive our wages. So let's just work, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair wa assalamu alaikum.
Jazakallah khairan, Ustaz. So beautifully put, mashallah. I'm like, I don't even know where to go from here. I'm so speechless. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you immensely. Everyone say ameen. I'll end it off by just saying that, subhanAllah, one dip into Jannah, and it's all worth it. It's really just a matter of, can we hold on in this moment, this one fleeting moment, this one passing moment? Can we try to handle our emotions in a way that's pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Can we try to maintain our hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And can we just try? Because again, that's all that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking of us. And I'll end with this one thing too, is that keep in mind too that this world is filled with a lot of pain, but it will be filled with a lot of joy too, inshallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-Kareem. He's the most generous and He loves to give. And it's important to keep in mind that if you've been in the batting cages for a while and you feel like it's been one hit after the other for a while, that's not a reflection of your entire life, right? A lot of times people get kind of sucked into that, we call it cognitive distortions, that black and white thinking, right? Things have been hard for a year or 2 years or 5 years. They're always going to be hard. That's not the case. Your life might look a certain way today, but you don't know what your life will look like tomorrow, and you don't know what your life will look like years from now. But at the end of the day, knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has planned everything perfectly, and that includes your existence too. Knowing that every single person in this room was placed here with purpose. Knowing that every single person in this room, inshallah ya Rab, we have the love of Allah. We have Allah, we have the house of Allah, and we have each other. And knowing that, if someone or something is under the care of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then that thing and that person is never ever lost. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the highest level of Jannah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us ease, and to grant our brothers and sisters in Palestine and Sudan and all around the world ease. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to be able to navigate our emotions in a way that is pleasing to Him, and give us the strength to be able to feel our emotions in a way that is pleasing to Him, and to be able to pass our balas, our hardships, with flying colors. Inshallah, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us better days and allow us to enter the highest level of Jannah together, hand in hand, inshallah.